Hello friends, I'm Colonel Chehil, and in this video, we will look at what is China plus one strategy. Now, China is a bitter pill that India must swallow. India is highly dependent on China for trade and commerce. In fact, China is our second largest trading partner after USA, and the bilateral trade between India and China is to the tune of $127 billion. Out of this $127 billion, China exports a good amount of $113 billion of worth of goods to India. That includes majorly critical minerals, some very important components that we essentially require for manufacturing here in India, a lot of raw material, as also a lot of finished products which have been made in China are exported to India. And India exports a meager $14 billion worth of goods to China, which majorly includes items like iron ore, petroleum product, seafood, cotton, etc. So looking at the huge trade deficit that exists between India and China, and which is grossly in favor of China, we can imagine how much are we dependent on China for trade. So we just can't wish away China and say that we will stop buying from China. It is just not possible unless we have alternatives. Now, China has established itself as a global manufacturing hub and has become so powerful that it has started dictating terms and arm twisting foreign companies that are operating from China by way of increased scrutiny, forced technology transfer from them, and foreign ownership restrictions have been placed on them. So countries are feeling the heat who have their deployment in China. So what is this China plus one strategy? Now, in fact, China plus one strategy is a counter to China's dominance in manufacturing. So it is basically a business approach where the foreign companies are trying to diversify their manufacturing and sourcing operations out of China to reduce their reliance on just one country. So with the aim of mitigating risk of political instability in the country or natural disaster if it happens, and even trade wars which are going on. So to mitigate this risk, the countries are looking to diversify. Now the advantage of this strategy is that these multinational companies, besides risk mitigation, will be able to identify locations globally that are more cost effective. It also provides them with the flexibility and resilience to have supply chains, which are, in case of any risk, they are still operational, as also they will be able to find different consumer markets, which helps them to expand their business in other countries besides China. Now, which are these potential plus one destinations? So on the top of the list are Vietnam and India. So they top the chart. Besides these, there are some other Southeast Asian nations like Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia. So these countries are also seen as potential for outsourcing or diversifying the companies which are presently deployed in China. So naturally, China sees all these countries, especially India, as serious competitors, especially recently when companies like Apple, Google, Samsung, they have started processing or expanding their process in India. So naturally that has hurt China, and they feel that their business is going to go out. So now what has China done to counter this move so as to stall manufacturing, especially in India? So the most time-tested thing which China has done is that they are strengthening Pakistan to create mischief in India. So Pakistan and China, they share an inextricable relationship, strategic relationship, primarily because China has invested good about $65 billion in the Belt and Road Initiative. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor provides China a shorter and an alternative route to the Arabian Sea via the Gwadar port. Now, Gwadar port has great strategic significance for China because in case of a conflict or hostilities, if the Strait of Malacca that connects the Andaman Sea with the South China Sea is blocked for some reason, China will still continue to have an uninterrupted access to the Indian Ocean region via the Gwadar port. China has also economically kind of colonized Pakistan, and besides milking it economically, China uses Pakistan as a front face to provide depth to CPEC in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. And what it does is that it periodically backs up Pakistan to engineer internal strifes in India, as also acts of internal aggression like it happened in Op Sindoor. Basically to dissuade foreign investors to set up shop in India, because if there is instability and there is chaos in India, naturally the foreign investors will not find it safe to invest and move to India for investments. So the primary aim of China is to fail the China plus one strategy. That is why it is doing it. Now, besides this, China is also adopting certain coercive actions to prevent manufacturing to flourish in India. Firstly, China is trying to delay deliveries of essential machineries that are required in India for manufacturing, which come from China. So they are on purpose delaying such machineries to reach India. Secondly, it is restricting the flow of qualified technicians and engineers to India, and even recalling some of the engineers back. In fact, very recently they have called back 300 odd trained technicians, skilled technicians from Foxconn, which is engaged in making Apple phone, the iPhone in India. Now, curbing the export of raw materials, which is often done by China, and components which are essentially required for manufacturing in India. So they're trying to lay restrictions on them and curb the free flow of such items to India. Very recently, they have put a ban on the export of rare earth magnets to India, which are essentially required for the manufacture of electronics and in semiconductor and automotive industry. So the rare earth magnets are very essentially required. So naturally, India is now looking for other alternatives to make good this deficiency. Now, there is no denying that China is at the top of the manufacturing sector pyramid. There is no denying about that. Now, China opened up its economy for global investors to come and invest in China in 1978. While India did it in 1991. Now, while China focused on the manufacturing sector and became a global manufacturing hub, India at that point focused on service sector, software development and IT sector, which of course was also good for us. India made a lot of revenue in that. But however, India lagged behind in the field of manufacturing, processing and refining. So that is how in all these years, China has become like a hub for manufacturing and not India. Now, just to give you a comparison between India and China, now China is 5 times the size of India's economy. So China's GDP is $19 trillion, whereas India's is just about $4 trillion. China again has 5 times more industrial parks as compared to India. Now, China has about 20,000 industrial parks, whereas India has just about 4,000 industrial parks. China has 5 times the number of formally trained workforce available with them, skilled workforce with them, as compared to India. About 24% of China's workforce is skilled, whereas only 4.7% workforce of India is formally skilled. China exports 5 times more than India. China's export is to the tune of $3.5 trillion, whereas India's export annually is about $824 billion, out of which about 3.5 billion are service sector exports. So manufacturing sector, we are lagging behind in a very big way. Now, in order to promote manufacturing sector in India, we need to have consistency in our regulatory policies, bring about transparency and simplification of our regulatory mechanisms, invest heavily in R&D and explore and extract the indigenous resources which are abundantly available, but they have not been really harnessed so far. India also needs to skill our workforce so that they are able to meet the requirements of the modern industries, which are highly high-tech, and you require highly trained, skilled workforce for that. We need to cater to world-class infrastructure, especially in terms of ports, SEZs, and industrial parks, which is lacking in India. And above all, India must shape the global opinion and project itself as a safe, secure, peaceful, and welcoming nation for foreign investments. So that is what India needs to do. I hope you found the video interesting. Thank you very much.